started. Good morning again.
Good morning.
For those who don't know me, I'm Jason Wren, and I am your senior warden. I would like to start off by thanking everyone who has given to the love offering for the bishop-elect. If you haven't done so and you would like to, you have 2 more weeks. I would also like to thank the Reverend Dr. Robert Phillips for his sermon this morning. And also for giving me the idea to create this special fund last September. This morning, I would like to talk about a different kind of love offering. If you've already given, here's an opportunity to give again. If you're worried about money, don't. I'm not going to ask you for any. But this love offering is something that everyone can contribute to right now. If you ever watch NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, he always ends each night's broadcast with, "Please take care of yourself and each other." That is the love offering. So as we go through this transition, please take care of yourself and each other. That applies to everyone in the room. Change can be a little bit uncomfortable. I heard a story about a math professor who described giving his math students a problem to solve, and he gave each one of them a calculator. The students were able to solve the problems with using the calculator. Then he gave them another math problem and took the calculator away. As you would imagine, the students it took them a little bit longer to solve the problem. We're like these students. The bishop-elect was not only our spiritual leader, he was also our calculator because he could help us solve almost any problem. So I say all that to say that it's going to take us a little bit longer to figure some things out as we go through this season of transition. But with the help of Dr. Phillips, the current members of the vestry, as well as the incoming members, we're going to get there. I just ask for your patience and your prayers. So as you think about what I'm saying, remember that the person who is sitting beside you in church, that person who is seated behind, in front, across the aisle, and in the pulpit are all one loss. We're all impacted by the departure of Father Harmon, but we're all in this together. So as you write your love offering check to yourself, on the second line, put any amount of patience, trust, and hope that you'll need over the next year. And in the memo section, write, "For the love of Trinity Episcopal Church." And remember, please take care of yourself and each other. Now I would like to introduce Father Stroud, who many of you know. He is our supply priest, and I think he would like to say a few words. Father Stroud.
Good morning. I've been a friend of Trinity for a number of years, and just over about 3 years ago or so, Father Harmon I had come to supply for him on his regular August vacation, and he had asked me if I would be willing to come and start being what I would call ministry of support. He here at Trinity. But at that time, we were still pretty heavy into COVID, and I said, well, I would love to pray about that, but I don't think I can make a decision like that when there's like nobody here. And I was like, I think I have to like meet people first to do that. And so we agreed that we would take another year to discern that, and then the following year I came back to supply for him, and he made the same invitation again, and we had a really wonderful conversation about why he was asking me to do this and my role, and I prayed about it and discerned that I would indeed come here in a ministry of support, mainly on Sundays, presiding and preaching every once in a while. And at this Advent, that will have concluded 2 years. It's gone by so quickly. And I'm so very, very grateful for that time. I feel I have grown in my own ministry. I'm so grateful to all of you for the very, very warm welcome you've given me and to my family when they came to visit at Christmas. And so I just wanted to take just a moment to describe a little bit about what my ministry will be, at least in the beginning of this transition. In case you don't know, I do have a full-time job. In fact, it's more than a full-time job, frankly, and that is Assistant Professor of Worship and Associate Dean of Chapel at Virginia Theological Seminary. So that's what I do during the week and also on the weekends sometimes as well. And I would say that is the call, the primary call that I feel God has called me to do, to help train lay and ordained ministers for the church. My own role here that I've discerned for the time being is to be, again, continue to be a ministry of support. So between now and the end of January, I'll be supporting a little bit more in that I'll be preaching a lot more often. I'll be here. Our 8 o'clock crowd will see me a lot more often than they normally do. I'll be here for 8 o'clock and 10:30 all the way through the end of January, as Jason mentioned, as supply during that time. After that, we'll see where things are, how things are going, and Dr. Phillips will be talking about that. I could foresee my own role continuing to be what it had been before, which is a ministry of support. I do not feel at this time called to be a rector of any parish, or Trinity or any parish. I really feel my call is to continue to be a professor at seminary, which is, like I said, a very, very full-time job. And the new rector of this parish will also be a very, very full-time job and will require that ministry. So people have asked me individually, and I thought it might just be helpful in this town hall meeting to kind of just describe how I see my ministry, at least at this time in my life, beings continue to be what I like to call pastor from the side. Kind of just coming and walking along with whomever is leading this parish. Right now, that will be, of course, Bishop Marianne is, as our bishop, is the ultimate leader, but the vestry and the wardens, perhaps an interim rector, perhaps a new rector, whatever that may be, as long as I'm invited, I see my ministry as being supporting those folks. So thank you very much again for allowing me to be able to exercise that ministry and for just the love and warmth that you've given me.
Thank you, Father Stroud. Thank you, Trinity. Thank you, Jason, the vestry. Thank you, Tina, for bringing me this plate of food. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, great, because I use my preacher voice so that you can hear me. Again, I'm so very glad to be here with you. And I want to come out of the gate by acknowledging this reality. And that is, while there's greater jubilation and happiness and joy about Father Harmon being now the bishop-elect of the Diocese of Arkansas, it's a spectrum of feelings. Joy, but also some sadness. You know, because there is an experience of loss and grief. And many of you all have shared that with me. And I want to normalize that if you are feeling some kind of way, it's all right. It's all right. Whatever you feel right now, however you feel right now is fine. Remember in the 23rd Psalm, the verse that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, the operative word is through, because you're not supposed to receive mail there. Okay? You walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And that's the way that this experience is going to be as well. Acknowledging the fact that there are some feelings of heaviness and grief and sadness. There are also feelings of joy, jubilation, and excitement about, number one, being happy for Father Harmon, but also being excited about what is on the horizon for Trinity. What's on the horizon for Trinity? One of the things that always comes up as I do vestry retreats, etc., especially for those parishes that are in transition, is I'll ask, how do you feel right now? And one of the feelings that always comes up is hope, hopeful. And I'm very excited to hear about hopeful. It's good to hear about hope. Here's the deal, though. Again, I love Reverend Peter J. Gomes, the late Peter J. Gomes. He said a lot of things that definitely formed me in my ministry. But one of the things that he stated is that there is a difference between hope and optimism. Hope and optimism. Optimism is painting a picture the way you would like for the picture to be. Hope is based upon having the willingness to endure whatever you need to endure to experience the divine surprise. The divine surprise. And a lot of times people will ask me, well, what is the divine surprise? What's the surprise? I said, that's why it's a surprise. That's why it's a surprise, all right? And it's something for you to be excited about because you do not know what God has in store for you. But you do know God has something in store for you. And God is all about good. And God is concerned about everything being done for your good. So with that being said, let me share with you a couple of things with respect to the transition model that is here in the diocese at this point. And the first thing that I need to share is that at the foundation of this model is a snapshot of our current reality. Our current reality. What I mean by that is, number one, we have a very shallow pool of clergy these days. A very shallow pool of clergy. Now hear me. It's a shallow pool. It's not a dried up pool. It's a shallow pool. All right? And according to statistics, each year 400 priests in the Episcopal Church retire, and 200 are ordained. 400 being retired, and 200 are ordained. And let me tell you a little bit about the current snapshot of ordained priests. One, not every newly ordained priest has discerned a call to the parish ministry. Not every newly ordained priest has discerned a call to the parish ministry. They are discerning calls to go back into the academy to get their PhD, as Father Stroud has done. They are discerning calls to go into the chaplaincy. They're discerning calls to go and work for not-for-profit organizations. And here in Washington, D.C., you can only imagine that would be a real hot ticket. All right? One of the major reasons for that, not the only reason, but one of the major reasons for that is because of the financial component. All right? Which gets into the next part. Many parishes are not in a space where they can actually hire a full-time rector. It's an expensive price tag. A full-time rector, all right? So we're having to be very creative as far as trying to find clergy that will be able to lead our parishes along the way, all right? Currently, in the Diocese of Washington, out of the 86 parishes for which I'm responsible, I have 32 parishes in active transition. 32 out of 86. Yeah, so next Sunday when you go into the sanctuary, light candles. Me! Okay? 32. And when I say active transition, what I mean is these are parishes that have either an interim rector, a priest in charge, or have been using supply for quite some time. Interim rector, priest in charge, or have been using supply for quite some time. And there are some parishes that are out there that really have been using supply priests in that they only have enough financial resources to pay the weekly payment for a priest. That's all they have. That's all they have. And there are many different reasons that parishes have found themselves in that space. Won't go into that now. That's another town hall for another time. But the reality, though, is that that is the case. That is the case. So our priest pool is very shallow, but it's not dry. It's not dry. So what that tells us is that we've got to be creative. We've got to be creative with respect to not only the transition model, but also the model for clergy leadership in our parishes that are in transition. So let me first of all talk about the further undergirdings of this new transition model. And it's new, it's new in that it is definitely going to have an impact on the way in which parishes move through this process. But there will be some things that will be very familiar to you. So there are three things that I want to lift up before I get into the 1, 2, 3s of the model. Number one, this new model seeks to do my three S's. To simplify, streamline, and shorten. Simplify, streamline, and shorten. When I speak about simplifying, many times there is confusion regarding the objectives, the roles, and responsibilities of those that are involved in the search process. Roles and responsibilities. And because of this kind of confusion, this misalignment, there can be a lot of stuff that happens in going through the search process. I see some heads nodding. Maybe a lot of stuff going on. So this model seeks to be very clear about what your role is and what your responsibilities are, and what your role is not, and what your responsibilities are not. It's very clear about that. So that's one of the major pieces there. Another piece to it is another S is streamlining the process. The reason that I focus upon streamlining the process is that there is a tendency, and it's kind of a natural tendency, where you go into this transition space of immediately trying to identify or to state that which you're looking for in your next rector. He or she needs to be this and that and this and that and this and that, and boom, 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 boom. All right? Now, I am not saying that there is not a time, an appropriate time to do that. What I am suggesting is that the initial energy that you expend should be more focused in, again, as I preached about, your identity. Who are you? Because while I want you to I want you to call someone who has the qualifications that are necessary, I also want you to call someone who has the skill set to meet Trinity where Trinity is. And that should not be a slam dunk. It should not be that at all. And I'll tell you, when I first took on this position, in the first year, I had to do 4 dissolutions. And the dissolution is a dissolving of relationship between clergy and parish. All right? And in each one of those situations, each one of them, without exception, the priest came to me at the end and said, you know, Robert, if I had known about this parish, what I found out and what I know now, I would have never, ever taken this call. Likewise, vestries came to me, wardens came to me and said, you know, Robert, if we had known about this priest then, what we know now, we would have never called her or him. All right? So that is a real thing. I know it seems like keen sense for the obvious, but it is a very real piece. There was one parish that called a priest that is off the chain as far as qualifications, off the chain, and conflict avoidant and passive aggressive. Called to a parish that loves conflict, all right, and loves conflict in that it has served them well. What I mean by that, this is one of our parishes in this diocese that has a very, very, very strong social justice presence in the neighborhood. They have done things that are on the cutting edge, the bleeding edge of theology and of community involvement. So that's what they do. So they've had to be like, we're little pit bulls along the way. All right? So in doing that, you don't put a conflict avoidant, passive aggressive priest in that system. You just don't do it. All right? So those kind of things do happen. It's very good to know, again, who you are. Who you are. And to be very, very clear to have clarity about who you are, both, as I said in my sermon, both in your beauty, and there's a lot of beauty here at Trinity, and in your brokenness, all right? In those areas in which you have challenges, in which you have frustrations, in which you have, all right? And like I said, every parish has that type of dynamic going on. It's true. It's true. So we're going to focus first upon who you are, your identity. And as we move further into the process, we'll get more and more information, if you will. Well, if that's who they are, then this is kind of the way the new rector needs to look in this particular way. Needs to be able to posture her or himself. And the last S is to shorten the process. Long gone are those days of having to generate that 40 to 50 to 85,000 page parish profile. Any of you all who have been on search committees in the past and had to go through that personal slice of Gehenna? Anybody been involved in that before? Okay, so you know it can be very, very painful. I'm not saying that the work that is poured into that is not good work. At some point, it kind of feels like killing a mosquito with a sledgehammer. Okay, so this process is going to shorten that with respect to the documents that will be needed, and with respect to the governing body that is going to actually perform the search process, which will be the vestry. There are not any more search committees in the diocese. The vestry is going to be equipped, empowered, enlightened, and encouraged to do the work that needs to be done in order for the search process to move forward. Now, everybody breathe. Okay, everybody breathe. Now, let me tell you the way that's going to look. All of the search process is going to be undergirded at each step of the way with a diocesan representative to walk alongside the vestry as they generate that which needs to be generated. The first component is going to be a financial review. In the financial review, the very first part of that will be conducting a financial audit. All right? Then there will be another more specific financial review, which will primarily be, can you pay your bills? What's your income? What are your expenses? Can you pay your bills? The next part of that will be a compensation package. What type of compensation can you offer the incoming clergy leadership with respect to cash, housing allowance, SICA, pension, continuing ed, transportation, health insurance, dental care, all of that? What type of a package can you offer your next priest? And another piece to it is a detailed job description. A detailed job description. And the reason that I emphasize detailed is because the more detailed your job description is, the easier it will be to interview, to transpose those bullet points into interview questions at the time that you start interviewing applicants. So I want you to be able to double dip wherever you're able to double dip, all right? And that's one of the spaces where you can do that. So that's with respect to the financial review, The next part is what is known as the Parish Vitality Assessment. For those of you that may remember this, the Parish Vitality Assessment was birthed out of the revitalization subject area that was presented as a part of the strategic plan for the diocese back at the 2020 convention. There were three subject areas: formation, revitalization, and justice. Formation, revitalization, and justice. The revitalization subject area birthed the Parish Vitality Assessment. And the Parish Vitality Assessment is just that. It is a way to assess how vital your parish is using 7 vital signs that the diocese has identified. Those vital signs include, number 1, do you have a compelling mission and vision? Do you have a clear path of discipleship? Do you have faithful financial practices? Do you have inspiring and capable leadership? Do you do welcoming and connecting ministries? Do you have uplifting and inviting worship? Do you bless your community? And what will happen is that Canon Anne-Marie Jeffrey leads up a team that will come and work alongside the vestry to develop an instrument being a survey or small groups, whatever is appropriate here at Trinity, to gather that information from all parishioners. And that's one of the major things to remember about this model. It only works if everyone is involved. Everyone will always have an opportunity to give your input. Everyone will always have an opportunity to give your input. Everyone will always have an opportunity to give your input, all right? Because we don't want to get into a space where, well, nobody asked me my opinion. No. Nix. No. There were opportunities for everyone to come and to provide whatever input should be provided. The other piece to it is that in going through this parish vitality assessment, really the whole model, but especially with your PVA, that's the acronym for it. It is so important to be honest. To be honest as you ask yourself the question, well, do we have a clear and compelling mission statement? Do we? And you'll rate that on a scale of 1 to 10 as to, well, not really, or we really got that going on. All right? And so everyone will be surveyed, if you will, and then the vestry will then synthesize all of the responses so that you have one parish vitality assessment that reflects the way in which all parishioners feel about that particular vital sign. Again, it is very important to be honest. Let me tell you one of the reasons, one of the stories behind it. Many of the when this model first came out, I had several parishes who were very self-congratulatory, all right? They were 10s and 11s off the chain for every vital sign. Oh, we got it. It was like they had created this parish that is right outside the pearly gates. And so I, in all of my curiosity, and you know that I'm a therapist, I always would ask, well, tell me a little bit more about that. And one of the things that came up, I was reading a parish vitality assessment blurb, and one of the things that was mentioned was that we haven't had a junior warden in the past 5 years. And then they went on to talk about something else. I'm like, slow your roll. What do you haven't had a junior warden? Say a little bit more about that. And they said, well, you know how what happens is that being junior warden, you got to do a lot of building stuff. We're an aging congregation, and we don't have a lot of people who can climb ladders and get the building together and things like we just don't. We're an aging congregation. We just don't have anybody like that. And so I said, all right, keep talking. And they kept on talking, and they kept on drilling a little bit deeper and deeper. And finally, they said, all right, reason we haven't had a junior warden in the past 5 years is because last junior warden raised so much hell on the vestry that nobody wants to be on the vestry, much less in that position. Right? So the way in which I responded to that was, cool. The thing to keep in mind is that at this point in time, you want to be able to identify your challenges, because the challenge there is not so much about the fact that we don't have anybody that's agile enough to climb a ladder. No, you have fractured relationships there in your parish. You have fractured relationships, and the question becomes, having a fractured relationship in your parish, what are you doing to address it? What are you doing to address it? And how is whatever you are doing working for you? The Dr. Phil question. How's that working for you? That's what priests want to see. That's what priests want to see. And what they want to know about, is this parish self-aware? Are you self-aware? Tell me about your beauty and tell me about your challenges. What are you doing to address your challenges? And how's that working? That's the key to it. That is the thing that will get you more than a nibble along the way once you go live and your OTM profile is out there to be reviewed. So, the parish vitality assessment. The next step is to do a website review. And it's truly just a very high level website review. And the purpose of that is for you to ensure that that which you have lifted up in your parish vitality assessment has a home somewhere on your website, and vice versa. That which you have on your website has been mentioned or referenced in your parish vitality assessment. It's a quick review, and it's only to tag those spaces of inconsistency. The next part is your OTM parish profile narrative questions. Those narrative questions, and some of those include the following. And you can kind of do a little bit of a double dip on these questions because you've touched on some of these in your parish vitality assessment. Just a few of them include: describe a moment in your worshiping community's recent ministry which you recognize as one of success and fulfillment. Describe your liturgical style and practice. If your community provides more than one type of worship service, please describe all of them. How do you practice incorporating others in ministry? Tell about a ministry that your worshiping community has initiated in the past 5 years. You can be contacted about that. How do you handle conflict? What is your worshiping community's experience of conflict, and how have you addressed it? And it's about 10 or 12 questions like that. Again, an instrument will be devised such that for small groups or surveys, so that the whole parish can provide input as to, well, how do you think we handle conflict? What do we do? All of that will then be taken back into the vestry, and it will be synthesized into one document, which will then be used to upload to the OTM, Office of Transition Ministry, database. Once you've completed that, then, and the person who will be walking alongside you from the diocese and getting that together is me. All right, and for the financial piece, it will be Canon Andrew Walter, our Canon to the Ordinary and Chief of Staff. All right. So once you've completed all of those components, you will then have a full picture from a financial perspective, from a vitality perspective, and from an overall profile perspective, where you can see this is who we are. This is who we are along the way. And I will be reviewing these documents along the way to ask those types of Columbo questions of, I'm curious about this or that or this fact. When that has been completed, then all of that information will be uploaded to the Office of Transition Ministry database, and you will be live. You'll be live, and you'll start receiving applications. It will not only be uploaded to the OTM database, which is worldwide, it will also go to the Episcopal News Service. You will also have an opportunity to post it on the diocesan website, the EDAO website, and I will post it on the Transition Ministers Conference database, which all of the transition officers in like 5 provinces, we have our own thing going on, and we start advertising about various positions that are out there as well. So you'll get a lot of, the net will be cast very wide. In addition to that, I encourage you to use social media and word of mouth. Word of mouth. If you know some people, if you know a priest who might be a good fit, have the priest to get in touch with the vestry and sending her his resume and profile and see what happens. All right? So, timeline. The financial review takes anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks. 1 to 2 weeks. The parish vitality assessment takes anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks. The website review, 1 week. Because again, it's just a review. The website review, just 1 week. The OTM parish profile, those narrative questions, 4 to 6 weeks. Because again, you may be able to double dip in those because you've worked on it in your PVA. And finally, getting it all together and getting it all uploaded to the database, about 1 week. So you're looking at from the time that you begin your financial review until the time that you begin to receive applications of a period of 3 to 6 months, which is substantially shorter than what it used to be. 3 to 6 months. Once, let me go a little bit further, and then I'll open up for questions. Once the vestry starts receiving applications, they will start. Those applicants for which there's a real interest, they'll start interviewing them then. This is not the time to queue up applications. If a good priest comes in and you're interested, interview them now, because 9 times out of 10, if you think that they might be a good fit, other parishes are looking at them too. And I've had that happen before, several times. And it is really, really challenging when it happens. But, so, they'll interview the first round of applicants. After they've done the first round, then they'll get in touch with me if they have decided that, there are a couple of priests in this first round that we want to come to ask back for a second interview. Cool. Before you do that, contact me so that I can do what is known as a red flag check on that priest. All right? A red flag, and the red flag check is obvious stuff. Has the priest been involved in a Title III or in a Title IV? Da, da, da. But also, I asked the transition officer of the diocese in which that priest resides. I asked him about 3 C's: chemistry, competency, and character. Tell me about this priest's chemistry, competency, and character. And I want to know as well, is this priest involved in the diocese? Do you know who this priest is? Because there have been times that I have reached out to other transition officers, I've given a name and they're like, okay, now spell that. Which tells me a whole lot. All right? So after, and we also do a background check. We do a background check on all applicants as well. Provided all of that goes through, then I give the green light to the vestry, invite them in for a second round of interviews. Should they go through a second round, and if the vestry reaches a point where they're like, we're kind of down to 2, so these are the 2 people that we're kind of interested in, then Bishop Marianne gets involved, and she does a bishop-to-bishop conversation. And then she will give a green light or, okay? And so upon that happening, and if the green light is a green light, then you move forward, and you call that particular priest to be your next clergy leader. Now, when that happens, the vestry will be aware of that. The vestry will inform the applicant that we would like to call you, and the applicant will respond yea or nay. If the applicant responds yea, wonderful. That is kept between the vestry and the applicant only until the letter of agreement has been signed. So, just in protection of my vestry members, so that all parishioners, y'all know, they will not be able to engage you in conversation about who they're interviewing or drilling down. Well, now, what about some? No, because of confidentiality. Confidentiality is another reason that I wanted to do away with search committees, because what's happened in the past is that confidentiality has been broken, and when that happens, sometimes the priest that is applying may or may not have informed her or his vestry that they're looking for a new call, and word gets out, and the priest gets let go for whatever reason, okay? So it's the real deal. There are very, very serious consequences for confidentialities being broken. And the other thing about it is that I've seen, this happened to me last year, where a vestry called a particular priest, and everything was all set up, except for the signed letter of agreement. And literally at the 99th hour, 1 week before the priest was supposed to show up, got a call saying, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it. All right? So the good news is that the vestry did not share that with the rest of the parishioners, because that would just raise more anxiety along the way. So be supportive and patient and gentle with your vestry, because they're doing heavy lifts along the way, and they need that type of support because, again, consequences are very, very severe if anything kind of falls over to the side. When it is time for you to know the specifics of the people or the person who's being called, you'll know. In addition to that, the vestry will be keeping you informed on your website with respect to what they are doing in the search process at any given point in time. Saying things like, we're working on the parish vitality assessment, you will be contacted by one of us so that you can complete a survey, and that will happen on this particular date, and we look for that information to be submitted back at that particular date. All right? So they'll keep you informed about what's going on in the search process as far as on a high-level view. When it gets down into the specificity of the people later on, that's where it's going to be a little bit more sensitive because, again, confidentiality doesn't exist. So, everybody breathe. All right, because I know I just gave you a tsunami of information. So now, what questions do you have? What bubbles up in your mind, in your spirit?
I
I know there's a bubble. Yes. And is that microphone?
Yes, it is.
So if you could use the mic, or yeah, so everybody can hear.
Those steps that you outlined for us, they're sequential. I mean, there can be no overlap. I'm just trying to shorten it even more, but I guess it's
No. Yes, they. I like for them to be sequential. However, because there is some overlap with respect to the topics that are discussed in the parish vitality assessment and your narrative questions, you might find some overlap there to kind of shorten it a little bit.
but it will still probably be 3 to, how long did you say?
3 to 6 months. 3 to 6 months.
And that conference that the bishop has, you said bishop to bishop, I'm assuming you mean the bishop of the diocese of which that priest?
Right. The question is, when you have, when I talk about the bishop to bishop conversation, that's our bishop, Mary Ann, in conversation with the bishop of the diocese of the other person, the applicant.
So that means that that person, the applicant, has to inform his bishop that.
Oh, yes.
That
Oh,
he's
yes.
looking for another position.
Oh, yeah. You never want your bishop to be surprised.
I'm just saying.
I always err in this battle. Oh, no. I tell Bishop Mary Ann on a regular basis, just so that you know what you might be walking into. Yes.
In the case that the priest is from the same diocese, what happens in that circumstance?
In that case, there's still a conversation that I have with the bishop. I go straight to Bishop Mary Ann. We have a conversation about that, and then we always do a background check, regardless of if the priest is here in the diocese, and then we kind of take it from there. Yeah. So it cuts down on the process a little bit. Yes.
Thank you. This is super helpful. Just a quick question on that process when applications are coming in, but we begin interviewing. And I like that idea. You don't wait to get 200 before you start talking to people. But what does that look like? You begin interviewing. There's one you really like, but you have applications coming in. If we're lucky, by the dozen every week or so. So what does it look like? When you move to going towards one, so we still have others coming. Thanks.
Well, one of the things is that the number of reality is that the number of applications that are being received in parishes in transition is significantly lower than what it used to be. Long gone are those days of having 30 to 40 to 50 applications that come through. And one of our larger parishes recently that did a call, they had about 16. Okay, about 16. Now, Trinity is you're going to get a nice chunk of applications, Again, I'd be surprised if it were more than like 20 in that range. So the main thing to keep in mind from the vestry's perspective is to be totally honest and transparent. We're reviewing your application, and we would like to interview you. You have the interview, and then you inform them of what the next step is with a time frame. We will be getting back in touch with you within the next 10 days on June 15th to let you know the status of where we are in this process. That way the applicants are always know what's the next step, and then to always follow up along the way. Because that has been a way in which some applicants have kind of fallen off by the wayside if that follow-up is not done.
Just a small follow-up, do you tell the other new applicants that you're kind of talking more closely with one, or you just continue?
All you have to tell them is that we invite you in for an interview. They don't need to know anything else. They don't need to know anything else. We're inviting you in for an interview, and then if they call back and say, well, I haven't heard from you, well, we said we would get in touch with you on June 15th. Today is June 10th. Okay, and it really does have to be that clear. And then if you see that, when you see that this is not going to be a good fit, then you inform the person. We have discerned that this is not a good fit for us for such a time as this. Thank you, period. No explanation. I saw a hand over here. Yes.
Since you're doing a worldwide search, do you do interviews overseas or California, whatever? Is that something that's being done? I think you have Zoom instead.
Did you say overseas or California? Is that that what you said? Like, you know, overseas from California. Here's the deal as far as international applicants. Because of the heavy lift and the expense involved in that, we veer away from that. We veer away from that. It is a very, 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 the director of HR can tell you all the steps that you have to go through for that. It is a lot. If they have American citizenship and they happen to live in another country, that's a different story. But when we have to vote, the lifting that is involved in bringing someone over and getting them citizenship and all of that is a very heavy lift. And it's expensive, and it will extend your process. So, yeah. So, here, and nothing like that. What makes me think that you're going to get a lot of applicants? Because y'all some bad folks. I mean, Trinity has a very good reputation. It has a very good reputation, and you have energy that is here, and you have financial resources. You have financial resources. That's
Thank you so much. This is very helpful. One of the things that you didn't mention in your outline of the process, we got all the way down to division to division, when you started out with the vestry being confidential, non-transparent, to avoid conflict. At what point in the process, I'm assuming before an offer is made, is the congregation then to meet potential applicant or candidate?
typically, the thing about it is that as you all, as the congregation has entrusted the leadership of the congregation to the vestry, and you all have been involved every step of the way in each of these documents being prepared, you're in essence, you are further affirming the governance empowerment of the vestry. Okay? So that's how that is.
Yeah, you mentioned that an audit would be performed
Yes.
and that background check would be performed.
Yes.
Who conduct those? Are those outside bodies or?
Yes. Yes. Outside bodies for both. We typically use for the background check Presidium. Yeah. And that's conducted in-house in the diocese. And the audits are conducted by a third party. Whomever parishes have used in the past and you're comfortable with them, that's fine with us.
So if any irregularities are found in the audit, what happens to those? And if any disquieting things are found in the background check, what happens to that information?
Background checks with respect to any applicant. So as I'm doing my red flag check and then in reviewing the background check, there's something there that is not good, then I will communicate to the vestry that this is an applicant for which it is not going to be a good thing to move forward. And so that applicant is then removed.
And with regard to any irregularities?
Any irregularities that again sits into my space of character, chemistry, and competency. And in the background check, it tells me some stuff too. It tells me some stuff too. If you've had any bankruptcies, if you've had things of that nature, things of that nature. So, and the other question with respect to the financial audit, I think I answered that. Hold on one second. Father Stroud?
I'm delighted to hear that this process is being streamlined. Before I was ordained, I was in a search committee, and did the whole profile and all of that, and it's a lot of work. Also, though, there is a school of thought around the time after a long rectorate, in particular. And of course, Father Harmon was here for 23 years. And one school of thought suggests that if a search, what you're describing as the search, takes off too quickly, the next person is easily compared to the old rector in some ways. And so I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that. Is there just some time that's needed to do the grieving and to kind of like that sense of identity before the formal financial review and everything that you started?
And there is time that is allocated for that, and it varies from parish to parish. But yes, there is time that is built in for that. The good news about it is that even when you start out with a financial review, and then you walk through that and you get into your parish vitality assessment, you're talking about your stuff, who you are right then and there. So that is a part, which is why I wanted it to be X amount of months before you start looking at applications that start coming in. So thank you for that.
Will they do the background check, will they do fingerprinting, or will it happen?
I don't know the details of the background check, but for the director of human resources, I stay out of her lane. Yes.
As we wait, each Sunday, are we compensating whoever's gonna be preaching, or?
Your vestry will determine that.
It seems so critical that we learn who we are before we even embark on a number of these steps. Are there mechanisms already in place for us to learn who we are? In other words, surveys, things of that nature?
The steps enable you to learn who you are. The actual steps. Going through the parish vitality assessment is a tool. That is a tool that enables you to articulate who you are for such a time as this. So it's built in. It's built in.
However, you did say that you wanted us to wait a while for Reverend Stroud before starting. And I'd like to get a better feel of that, because I only think I'm probably one who jumps in too quickly. But I happen to think that the sooner we do this, the better. How much time are we talking about waiting before we actually reach out and have?
Let's take the word waiting out and say limit.
I'm sorry?
Let's take waiting out of the equation and put in limit. And the reason, I'm not avoiding the question. The reason that I say that is because the anxiety, we can place a lot of anxiety and stress on ourselves unnecessarily. For such a time as this, you have Father Stroud, all right? And even when he should depart, you will have clergy presence here. In the meantime, you will be doing the actual steps of the model along the way at the appropriate time. Right now is not the time to start that. Right now is not the time to start that. So you're gonna live. You're gonna live. I saw over here a hand.
I think, thanks. It seemed, you mentioned a preaching charge and an interim priest. There's a timeline which can be shortened, but it's still quite long. Father Strauss mentioned that Father Harmon has been here for 23 years. Is there a strategy by which you deliberately say we're going to continue to live, but let's just cool our heels for a while and have the process take what we feel is an appropriate time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mine is not to rush you all to do anything. That which I just shared with you as far as the data, in essence, that I shared with you, is strictly that. It's the data. And it can be massaged depending upon where you are in the life here at Trinity. One of the things that is happening is that now we're about to step into the holiday season. You know? So as a result of that, things are not going to have as much energy in doing this type of work as your energy in stepping into Advent and then moving into the Epiphany season. So there's no rush. There's no rush. Period. New sentence, new paragraph. There will be a little bit of a clip at some point in time where you do start moving along. Because I don't want you to get stuck. I don't want you to get stuck. I saw a hand over.
Yes.
Where?
I want to say something.
Who was me? No, there.
So while Father Strauss is trying to help us transition, about his work, is there going to be a way to lessen his load while we're still transitioning?
First of all, you have to engage in a conversation with the vestry and Father Stroud regarding what his load is. I know nothing about that. And I don't want to know. But that will be a conversation between the vestry and Father Stroud. And decisions will be made once again, based upon the best way, the optimal way, most efficient way to care for Trinity for such a time as this. You will not be left alone. You will not be left alone. I have many more jokes and stories to share with you in my sermons. Those of you who may have been around when I gave the parrot joke, I got more like that. So anyway, yes, there, and then we'll come up here.
I missed one. What is OTM?
OTM is Office of Transition Ministry. Office of Transition Ministry. Yes.
Got a question.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
You mentioned earlier about financial audit. Is that at whose expense?
Typically, it is at the parish's expense. If there is a need for the diocese to give further support, that's a conversation that has been had and has been done. But the initial request is made for the parish to do the audit.
The annual audits that we have, will that suffice?
It depends. It depends. We're now in 2023, and so maybe your 2022 audit will be sufficient. That is the type of question that you'll engage with Canon Walton. Okay, I'm very clear about my lane. Natural people are over there. I do my lane here. Up here in the front.
I just wanted to make a comment. I was here when Father Paul left, and we were not so lucky. We didn't have Father Stuff, and we didn't have Deacon Alicia. So I think for us, really, I know it's sad that Father Harmon has gone, but I think we're in a much better shape than we were when Father Abernathy left, because we had a lot of interims. But at least we have two people that we know. And so I would say for all of us, maybe lighten up a little bit.
Lighten up. Yes.
You're all offers.
Yeah. All right. So I never say goodbye to anybody, just see you later. I am available. My email address is rphillips@edow.org if you want to send me an email. My hope and my prayer, again, is that the energy that I'm experiencing from you in this room will be further energized, if you will, as you continue to step into this time of transition. It's a time of excitement, and it's a time to be hopeful, and it's a time to truly hold on to Jesus' hand.
Amen.
Hold on to Jesus' hand now. Hold on to each other's hand, but with that other hand, hold on to Jesus' hand. Because we're in a space, one of the things that I'm trying very hard to do in the diocese is to shift from the whole paradigm of deployment, which is like, let's get this preaching there, to discernment. Who is being called to us? Who is being called to us? And how are we responding to the call that God has placed on us as a community of faith? That's the hookup. So I thank you all so much for coming, and bless the time.
Is this for the sanctuary?
Don't go. What's up, sir? Sit down with you.